One dark and overcast evening, a young woman was alone in her house. Suddenly she heard a knock on the door. Her heart began to beat faster, as she was not expecting any guests. Cautiously approaching the door, she looked through the peephole and saw an unfamiliar man with a gloomy expression on his face. She decided not to open the door, but the man continued to knock more insistently. In the end, he started saying her name as if he knew her personally. Fear seized the woman, and she called the police. However, when the police arrived, no trace of the mysterious visitor remained. This incident left an indelible trace of fear and unresolved questions in her heart. A young woman, let's call her Emily, was alone at home that evening. Everything was quiet and peaceful until there was a mysterious knock on the door. Emily shuddered and looked towards the entrance. She was sure she wasn't expecting any guests at this time. Cautiously approaching the door, Emily peered through the peephole. An unfamiliar man with dark hair and deep, cold eyes stood on the threshold. His face was distorted with a gloomy expression, which caused Emily's heart to be in a state of anxiety and fear. She decided not to open the door, because there were no harbingers of such a visit. However, the man continued to knock more insistently and began to pronounce her name. He sounded like he knew her personally. Emily felt goosebumps on her back, her hands began to tremble with fear. In a state of panic, Emily decided to call the police. She explained the situation to the operator and asked for help. When the police arrived at the scene, they searched the neighborhood and the house, but found no trace of the mysterious visitor. It was as if he had disappeared by air. Despite all the efforts of the police, the mysterious visitor remained an unsolved mystery. The official explanation sounded like this: perhaps it was an incomprehensible mistake or confusion related to the address or identity. However, for Emily, this case remained a real mystery. She began to conduct her own investigation, trying to find out who this mysterious visitor was and why he turned to her. Deciding not to trust only the police, Emily decided to find out the truth on her own. After an unpleasant incident with a mysterious visitor, she began to be alert and more cautious about her safety. One day, when evening had already come, Emily decided to go on her own investigation. She brought a flashlight, a notebook and a pencil with her to record any information she could find. Emily's heart was pounding as she began to explore the surroundings of her home. She checked every corner, every shrub, to find any traces or clues that could shed light on the mysterious visitor. Passing by windows and doors, Emily noticed a small piece of paper pressed under the threshold of the front door. She carefully picked it up and found a note. There were a few words written on it: "You're not safe. Watch out." Fear shot through her body. This confirmed that her fears were justified, and someone was following her. But who and why? Emily felt that she was getting closer to the solution. She continued to explore the surroundings despite her trembling nerves. Suddenly, her gaze fell on a shadow moving among the trees. She ducked and disappeared around the corner of the house, watching the incomprehensible movement. And then she saw him, a mysterious visitor who was standing in the shadows. Although his face was not clearly visible, Emily felt that it was the same person who knocked on her door. His presence made her heart skip a beat. Fearing to be noticed, Emily carefully pulled out her phone and began taking photos of the mysterious visitor. She understood that this was her only proof. At the same moment, the mysterious visitor felt that he was being watched. He glanced in Emily's direction and, as if sensing danger, quickly disappeared into the darkness. Emily examined the photographs with trembling hands. They were a little blurry, but still allowed to see his appearance. He was a pale man with deep-set eyes and a sharp nose. But she couldn't find out his identity. Emily felt her breath catch in her throat. The mysterious visitor not only followed her, but was also aware of her life and actions. With fear and anxiety, she realized that none of her steps had gone unnoticed. In the evening, when Emily was getting ready for bed, her phone rang. Nervously, she picked up the phone and heard a strange, distorted voice that said, "Do you think you can avoid me? I know all about you, Emily. You're not safe." A cold chill ran down Emily's spine. The voice was inhuman, unpleasant and full of sinister laughter. She realized that this mystery was much darker and more confusing than she could have imagined. Fear and determination mixed inside Emily. She realized that she needed to continue investigating and expose this mysterious stalker, who clearly had his sinister intentions. Determined to protect her life and find answers, Emily went in search of clues and support. She turned to a private detective who was an expert in investigating complex and mystical cases. After a detailed explanation of the situation and providing all the available evidence, the detective promised to help Emily in her search for the truth. They began analyzing all available data, cross-checking information and uncovering secrets related to the mysterious visitor. Together, they discovered several suspicious events and connections that could point to possible motives and the identity of the mysterious stalker. However, their investigation was just beginning, and they had to go through dark paths and tangled tracks to find the truth. With each new day and each revealed fact, Emily delved deeper into this dark story. She understood that her life was under threat, and only solving this riddle would help her regain safety. So began her immersion into a dangerous world of mysteries and intrigues, where no one was who they seemed, and where the truth was hidden in the most unexpected places. Emily was ready to go all the way to solve the mystery and stop the persecution that shrouded her life in darkness. Every day, Emily continued to receive terrible and frightening messages from her mysterious stalker. The content of these messages became more and more ominous, and their frequency and persistence only increased her fear. She felt that no one from her entourage could be trusted. Doubts penetrated into every particle of her thoughts, and she began to suspect everyone and everything around her. Her sleep became disturbed, and anxiety did not leave her for a minute. All this forced Emily to be even more careful and vigilant. She started using various techniques of self-defense and ensuring her safety. She installed additional locks on the doors, installed a video surveillance system around her house and kept her mobile phone always at hand, ready to call for help if necessary. She continued to work with a detective, hoping that with their joint efforts they would be able to find traces and reveal the identity of the mysterious stalker. They studied every piece of information, every suspicious contact, but still could not come close to solving it. One day, Emily received a new message from the stalker, in which it was written, "You can hide, but I'll always be watching you. Your life is in my hands." The police and detectives were shocked by the tragic discovery. Emily's body was found in a lake on the outskirts of Los Angeles. She was wearing the same clothes as the last time she was seen, and everything indicated that she was the victim of her mysterious stalker. The tragedy caused deep pain and grief to everyone who knew Emily. Police launched an investigation at the scene, and detectives were trying to find answers to questions that still remained unanswered. Suspicions fell on various people, but so far nothing pointed to a specific suspect. The community where Emily lived was also shocked by what happened. People became more cautious and began to discuss different versions of events, trying to understand what really happened to this young woman. Emily's friends and family gathered together to pay their last respects to her and honor her memory. Everyone who knew her remembered Emily as a bright, talented and life-loving girl. Their hearts were broken with grief that such a tragedy had happened to such a kind person. However, Emily's tragedy has become a powerful incentive for the police and detectives to continue their investigation and find the perpetrator. They continued to search for traces, analyze evidence and turn to various sources of information in search of clues. The police also began to appeal to the public, asking for evidence and information that could help solve this terrible case.